The senator from Connecticut.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Senate, Mr. President, is on the verge of approving a measure that is supposedly a compromise to provide for GMO labeling. I want to express my thanks and respect for the principal authors of this legislation, my colleagues, Senators Roberts and Stabenow. They've worked hard to forge this compromise. But unfortunately, it falls far short of what is necessary to really inform consumers, provide the essential facts that they need to make informed and educated choices about what they want to eat and their families eat, what they want to put on their dinner table. Nothing is more fundamental or important than what we eat. It's essential to the energy and ability to learn of our children. It's important to our productivity as adults. People of all ages care about what they eat, and they care more than ever now because they know how important it is, and they also know about the unwanted features of food that could impair their health. Not long ago, we rejected as a body a measure called the DARK Act, which stood for Deny Americans the Right to Know. And unfortunately, this legislation will continue to leave consumers in the dark about what they are eating. This new compromise is as misguided and anti-consumer as that bill was, even though it may seem better. And it also betrays the desires of 90% of the American people who want clear, comprehensive, truthful, accurate information, labeling that they can understand and see readily when they shop in their supermarkets or grocery stores, labels that tell them whether there has been genetic engineering. And not only do 90% of the American people want it, but the people of Connecticut have spoken. My state adopted a law that requires it. And that law will go into effect if 4 other states, comprising 20 million people, move ahead with the same legislation. It is not arbitrary, it is not dictatorial or draconian. It is simple, common sense, effective legislation adopted by the legislature, signed by the governor of my state. And what probably offends me most about this legislation is that it overrides the will of the people of Connecticut, their determination that they want clear, comprehensive labeling on GMO products. When the Connecticut legislature adopted its statute, and now as we are considering ours, the debate has never been about whether GMO are safe or unsafe to consume. I will leave to the scientists, readily delegate to them those judgments about the science of GMOs. Nor is it a debate about whether we should have warning labels. The labeling on these packages would not be in any way a warning to consumers. It would be informational only. The debate here and the objective of this measure is simply to provide information as dispassionately and clearly and objectively as possible. That's the goal, and that's what the legislation that I've co-sponsored with my colleague, Senator Merkley, would achieve. And that's what we have sought to do through the amendments that we have offered to correct the deficiencies in this measure. Among those deficiencies are the lack of an adequate definition of bioengineering. Right now, that definition fails to include many of the forms of GMOs that could be adopted. The deficiencies include the reliance on QR codes, which discriminate against people who don't have smartphones or live in areas that are not served by the internet or go to shop in stores that don't have that service. It is defective also in a number of its specific provisions, and I'll just cite one more. In the provision that applies to additional disclosure options, the Secretary of Agriculture is directed by this legislation when there is insufficient access to bioengineering disclosure through electronic or digital disclosure methods, he shall provide, and I'm quoting, shall provide additional and comparable options to access the bioengineering disclosure, end quote. The Secretary of Agriculture will become responsible and accountable for the cost, the mechanical process, all of the aspects of providing this disclosure when, in fact, electronic or digital disclosure methods available to manufacturers or retailers are insufficient. What will be the cost? What will be the obstacles? There's been no hearing that would indicate those facts. And so what we have here is a failure of drafting and of process. And in this sweeping so-called compromise, the laws of Connecticut will be decimated. My state would be stripped of robust grassroots GMO labeling measures, including Maine and Vermont, not only applying to food, but also to seeds, what's planted in the ground, and information about whether they have been bioengineered. These deficiencies are fundamental to this legislation. And I repeat, the issue here is not about warning and not about safety. Although those topics are reasonable to debate, it is about simply the public's right to know. I have a basic faith in our markets in the United States, in our free enterprise system, that consumers will make smart judgments and wise choices if they have the information that enables them to do it, but only if they have that information. And my question to the proponents of this bill is, what do we have to fear by providing that kind of information that consumers need and want, and that 15,000 Connecticut citizens have written to me asking to defend, and constituents of mine, like Tara Cook Littman, have shown is desperately and dramatically needed. Tara has said, quote, anything short of an on-package clear labeling shows total disregard for what it is like to be a mom shopping in a store with her children. When I'm shopping, I need to get in and out as fast as I possibly can, and whether a product contains GMOs is only one of the many things I am looking for before making my purchasing decision. My son is allergenic to nuts, so I always look at packages to make sure the item is nut-free. Tara Cook Littman is talking. I like to know the calories, fat, and sugar of an item before I purchase it. I look at how many ingredients a product has. All that information I can get in seconds. I pick up the item, I scan the box for the information I need, and keep moving. I should be able to do the same for GMOs. I would never have the time to pull out my phone and scan the packages or go to the website in order to get the simple information I am looking for. Assuming I would have the time or ability shows a total lack of understanding about shopping in the real world. When shopping for a family of 5, my shopping cart could end up over 50 items. Having to scan or look up items on a website is not feasible. End quote. I agree with Tara. And I agree with anyone who has shopped and has the same views in a crowded grocery store at the end of the day, or with a child, especially a young child. Navigating these aisles are challenging enough. The last thing a parent has is spare time to take out their phone and scan every product before placing it in their cart, even assuming the store has the internet service that would enable someone to do so, and even assuming that person has a smartphone. This proposal is simply not practical or logical or fair to consumers. It is, in fact, anti-consumer. It is unacceptable as a consumer protection measure. Let's give states the freedom to protect their own people, as Connecticut has done. That's the reason that I proposed an amendment that would restore the right of states to adopt such legislation and make this legislation a floor rather than a ceiling that enables states to do more. Mr. President, I want to thank my colleagues, Senators Leahy and Sanders, as well as Senator Tester and others who have championed this cause, most importantly, Senator Merkley, who has helped to lead this effort. I believe that the concerns we have expressed are urgent and immediate, and even at this late hour, I urge my colleagues to reject this measure as it has been drafted now and adopt these common sense amendments that will improve it. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the floor.